Hey there guys and girls, how you doing? It's great to have you here. I'm Dan Ashendorf. Today I wanted to chat to you about something to do with mindset. It's a little twist on the received wisdom about having positive mindset is good and having negative mindset is bad. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have a positive mindset because that would be complete nonsense and that would be entirely erroneous and wrong. But I just wanted to give you a little spin on something, and just do let me know in the comments if you agree with what I'm just about to say. So we know that having a positive mindset, having positive emotions is a really important factor in achieving, and we know that positive mental attitude is one of the most important things we can have in order to succeed in business. And it's pretty self-explanatory why that is, and I'm not going to get into this, but I wanted to tell you about some of the more kind of, shall we say, darker emotions and why they can have their uses. And I'm going to give you an example, and specifically I want to talk to you about the issue of jealousy. Now, jealousy is inherently a very negative and dark emotion, and it's got the ability to pretty much blight everything that we do because we can never measure up. And when you're in a situation that you can never measure up, you are by definition going to be at a very strong disadvantage because you're always going to be failing. So even if you're going to be succeeding compared to other people, so other people are going to be looking at you from the outside and they're going to think, wow, he's done well or she's done well. You are going to be, because you're comparing yourself to others, you're going to be considering yourself to be a failure. And that is a very negative and destructive emotion. But I wanted to tell you why jealousy can actually be a very powerful and a very empowering emotion as well. And in order to really kind of understand it, let's look at two forms of jealousy, or two types of jealousy rather. So I would categorize jealousy into two types. The first one would be what I would call the passive type of jealousy, and the other one is the active type of jealousy. Now let's look at the passive one first, and that's the destructive one. So we see someone who succeeds and that really gets to us. So we just sit there and we stew. We pretty much do nothing because we don't know what to do. We don't use that emotion in our favor because all we do is we sit there and we stew and we think that we've been dealt a bad hand, or we think that we can never match up, or 101 different permutations of jealousy that is pretty much, as I said, is blighting our existence and serves no purpose. In fact, it's a very self-destructing emotion, and there's a lot of depression. In fact, I think the reason that we are gripped in an epidemic of depression in the Western world is because of jealousy, because of social media. Everyone sees other people succeed, they can't match up. The difference between where they are and where they want to get just seems almost insurmountable. And so they get into this rut and they struggle, and it's a spiral, it's a downward dark spiral out of which is very difficult to climb out. And that's the passive jealousy. And the reason it's passive is because there's nothing that's being done in order to climb out of it, in order to succeed, in order to use it as a galvanizing force. And so by definition, it's passive. Now let's look at what I call the active jealousy. Now, I don't want to sugarcoat this because it is jealousy. It's not leveling up or it's not anything like this. It is jealousy. It's seeing someone who is successful more than we are, seeing where they are and just feeling just darn jealous. Now, I can bet my bottom dollar that out of the human endeavors, jealousy is probably the thing that has been responsible for more success stories than any other, because people always want to match up to other people. It's just human nature. Now, this is what I call the active jealousy. Now, I've been guilty of this, and I'm sure that you've been guilty of this. You know, we look at someone else and we want to be in that person's situation. So with jealousy, and I will talk about the active jealousy, what to do about it, how to harness it, and how to make sure that it is the biggest galvanizing force in your life. And I think, in fact, if you don't feel jealous, I think you're missing a trick, because it means that you are resting on your laurels. And I'll get on to this in just a moment. So let's talk about active jealousy. So it's the act of seeing someone else succeed, wanting to get there. We're not there. There is a massive gap between that person and us, and it's actively trying to get to that person's level. Now, I don't mean for this to be creepy or, sort of following them or anything like this, but it's certainly an energy source. It's almost like having fire under you. That's sometimes the way that I feel about it. It's having sort of like this tangible, living fire emotion that is really propelling you forward. That is active jealousy. And it is about leveling up. I mean, I know I said in the beginning that it's not about leveling up, but there is a factor in it that is to do with leveling up. And so let's talk about active jealousy and how we can harness it to make sure that we 10 times our results. So the first thing we've got to do is obviously find someone that is worthy of this emotion. So we don't want to go after some deadbeat person who has no achievements that we want to emulate. So it needs to be someone that we want to emulate. And then we need to apply the DNA method that I've spoken about in other broadcasts such as this. Just scroll back and find my DNA method and you'll know exactly what I mean. But it's basically getting under someone's skin. But the most important thing is the fact that we need to acknowledge jealousy for what it is. So we need to be aware that we are feeling this emotion. We need to be feeling the fire. We need to be feeling the fire within us. So I would recommend that you envision this fire that is within you, that is propelling you forward. Now, let me just say this from the outset, guys. Jealousy can be a destructive emotion, but what is more destructive is sitting there on your laurels and not taking action. So a lot of people, for example, in my industry, and I'm sure that in your industry as well, in any given walk of life, they make some money. So they can be making a couple of thousands, they could be making maybe 10,000, they could be making 20,000, but then there is someone else who's going to be making $1 million. Now, if you look at that person and you want to emulate him, and I personally think the only way you are genuinely going to have the level of energy required to really go out, kick ass and break down the barriers is through jealousy. I mean, if you look at the emotions that we can experience, the negative emotions, the positive emotions, but you've got fear, which is a great motivator, and you got love, which is a great motivator, and there's a whole bunch of emotions, good and bad, that can motivate us. But I think that jealousy has got this kind of edge that can really get us out of bed in the morning and make us take the action that's required to take us on to the next level. So if you're making 5,000 and you see someone that you are jealous of and you think, hey, he's making 10,000, and so help me God, I'm going to be getting to that person's level in a year's time, then you are most likely going to go out, take action and get there. But I think the main thing is to acknowledge it for what it is, so that it doesn't cause you harm, so that it doesn't bring you down. You need to be controlling that emotion to make sure that you know where it's taking you. You know you've got your action items. I'd recommend that you write them down. You realize that this is what you're going through, and you even acknowledge it in writing, the fact that you are jealous of someone, but it's an active form of jealousy. It's a positive form of jealousy. It's an emulation. You're not going to do yourself or that person any harm, but all you want to be doing is you want to be where they are. And once you learn that, you can actually move on then to the next level, which is someone else. But that's of emotion. You know, we need to be thinking about our emotional map of where we are, what sort of emotions we're experiencing in order to really make it big, in order to be successful, because it is all about this area of taking action is really so important. It's so emotionally entangled with everything else that we do, that we really need to be in control of it. And I do think that jealousy is one of the great motivators, you know, with things like fear, with things like love. I mean, frankly, if we love our family, that's great, but there's not really much more that we can do about it. But jealousy is one of those things where if we actively decide to go out and take action, then that can be a great motivational force in propelling us forward and getting us to where it is that we want to be. So guys, hopefully you found this little broadcast informative. As always, I love to hear from you. Leave me comments, share, and engage with me on these videos. Guys, looking forward to the next one. Take care. I'm Dan Ashendorf signing out. All the best. Bye bye.